Everything in this Foghorn is from dev posts and the public test and is subject to change, including potential release dates. The future arrives this week, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Hello, I'm Stats and welcome to Foghorn. I read things so I can write them down and read them to you, so you don't have to read them. Update 080 goes live this Wednesday on CIS and NA, and Thursday on EU and SEA. Unless you've been living like a hermit in a cave somewhere, you'll know that rework carriers and Tier 9 ranked come with it. Besides those things, there are quite a few others I'd like to cover in this episode, so let me run through the topics. I'll be going through EU server downtime compensation, update to Game Center, rental ships in the premium shop, my final thoughts on carrier rework PTS round 3, and some changes probably going into update 081 or later, specifically British carriers and the associated event, radar changes, Soviet battleships coming into test, flooding changes, an update to the Shards map, cross-server clan battles, and King of the Seas 8. So grab a cup of tea and we'll get started. If you play on EU, you may have experienced some recent downtime which caused Wargaming to have to interrupt an office party to get everything working again and keep the community informed. Unfortunately, the problems continued into that weekend, so Wargaming are now offering compensation to anyone who played on EU between January the 5th and 20th. If you did, go and find this article on the official news portal, log in, and press the orange compensation button to get 2 days of Warships Premium, which activates immediately, so don't press the button if you're not going to play for a while, and also 2 Belle Epoque containers. Clans will also get 2,000 oil each. Wargaming Game Center has had a small update, which includes a direct link to the bonus code claim page, and also single sign-on when you get disconnected without having to close the game or re-enter your credentials again. You may have noticed that French premium destroyer Terrible is available for rent in the premium shop. For a few pounds, euros or dollars, you can rent her for a week to try her out, and if you like her and buy her, the cost of rental is deducted from the purchase price. While the rental price is perhaps a little too high to encourage many players to try this out, I hope to see other ships for rent in the future, as it would be great to be able to try before you buy with more premium ships. Our main topic is once again, and perhaps for the last time, the carrier rework. I've been playing a lot on all 3 rounds of the public test and have watched things progress very nicely. I've gone from being very optimistic at the end of TST to being dismayed at the short timescales for release, and then back to optimistic again after seeing the way that Wargaming has fixed the issues and conducted balancing over the 3 PTS iterations. Several changes were introduced in the 3rd round, and I'll go over the important ones. Far better balancing of AA and plane health. I think this is now in the sweet spot in that if you're careful and you choose targets with weaker AA, you use the new line of sight spotting mechanic and you proactively dodge flak, your planes will be able to make attack runs in relative safety. If you straight line into strong AA ships' AA auras and hang around for a long time, you will lose all your planes. I've played many matches now, and while no doubt there'll be further balancing once it goes live and we have all human matches, it's 90% of the way there. If you lose your planes, you made a mistake. The myth of infinite planes has been made even further from the truth by an increase to plane replenishment times at tiers 4 to 8. Now, at all tiers, if you throw your planes away, you will very quickly struggle to launch full squadrons, and from the surface ship's point of view, shooting down planes will have a negative impact on the carrier who lost them. Think of planes like surface ship gun shells, and losing planes like missing a shot. You have to wait for the guns to reload, and at high tiers, that reload time is pretty long. Torpedo bombers have been added back in to tier 4 following player feedback to allow players to learn to use them early on. Fighters have been completely removed from squadrons at tier 4, presumably to make the learning curve a little easier. You get the full set of fighters from tier 6. The heal consumable has been moved from dive bombers to torpedo bombers, as they seem to be taking more damage from having to fly in straight lines. AA sector prioritization has been changed to increase damage over time rather than the number of AA flak bursts, so that even if you manage to dodge the flak, you'll still be taking a huge amount of damage from ships using prioritization well if you stay inside their reinforced side AA aura. Note this also means that bad use of sectors will greatly decrease your AA effectiveness, so there is a skill to learn there. I just want to remind you that from 8.0, no planes, even spotter planes, can spot torpedoes. Torpedoes are completely invisible from the air. You have been warned. There is now an AA damage counter, so you can see the effectiveness of your AA gun, so you get more information than just how many planes you've shot down. Divisions will allow 1 carrier maximum, and there will be a soft limit of 2 carriers per team, but a hard limit of 3 per team will kick in if there are too many carriers in the queue. This means that for the first week or so, you can expect a lot of 6 carrier matches, but like any new line release, it will eventually calm down. Campaign tasks aimed at carriers will be reworked in line with the new style carriers, and there's also a plan to overhaul the 2 anti-aircraft achievements once average numbers of planes shot down on live becomes clear. There was a hint on stream last week that planes will eventually have camouflages to match their host carrier, even special camouflages like the Halloween ones. Another quick tip from that stream, fighter patrols will attack your squadron if you stay in their patrolled area marked on the minimap for more than 5 or 6 seconds, and they will chase you if you run for 30 seconds, but you can outrun them using your engine boost, and with torpedo bombers you can use the heal consumable to mitigate the damage and keep your planes alive. Good to know. One last thing for 8.0, a fog intensity slider has been introduced in the settings. I'm not exactly sure what it affects, as I didn't get a chance to test it out on PTS. It will either affect haze that you get on some maps, or the storm effects, or both. I just want to make you aware that it was there, and if you figure out what it does, please do let me know in the Discord server. And now some updates for 0.8.1 and beyond, starting with some more carrier news. Royal Navy carriers will be coming in 0.8.1, which will be with us presumably in the last weeks of February or the first week of March. The vessels announced are Hermes, Furious, Implacable and Audacious, and the national flavour is one of in-your-face gameplay. The planes will fly lower than other nations, allowing better use of terrain cover and avoiding spotting and AA, and the planes will have relatively high health pools. The torpedoes will have very short ranges and arming distances, and instead of dive bombers, the Brits will get carpet bombers, which spread their bombs out over a long ellipse without a change in altitude. The carpet bombers actually look a lot like attack planes, which for the Brits will carry a large number of fast rockets, but presumably with poor accuracy and damage per rocket. Associated with the release of the Royal Navy carriers will be an event along the lines of the Royal Navy Destroyers event last year, with a new pair of temporary currencies being introduced, which can be earned to buy in-game items and ships, including the Tier 4, 6 and 8 researchable British carriers. Event containers will also have a chance of spawning ships. Premium carriers will go back on sale at Tier 8 from update 0.8.2 sometime towards the end of March. They will cost 14,000 doubloons, which is more than the compensation you'd get for selling your premium carriers after 8.0 hits this week, so my advice is to wait until the rework settles down before you even consider selling any premium carriers. You'll have to pay a lot more to get them back again if you realise you've made a mistake. I suspect that update 8.2 will also include one or more British premiums. Will we perhaps see Ark Royal? In other news, there will at some point be a change to the way radar works. A 6-second delay is being introduced, during which time only the radaring ship can see any ships it's detecting with its radar. Detected ships will appear on the minimap immediately for everyone, but allies must wait 6 seconds for those ships to render in the 3D game world. The dev blog post didn't give much detail about how the 6 seconds is counted, so I asked Wargaming to clarify. They told me the timer is attached to each ship being radared separately, and the counter for that ship resets if they leave the radar area and re-enter, or if they were outside and they enter for the first time during the radar. So you will always get that 6-second count when radared or when entering a radar. If you are otherwise unspotted and you shoot during those 6 seconds, then the normal spotting rules apply. In short, if you're radared, you now have 6 seconds to take action and protect yourself. This mechanic will reward players who are aware of the positions of radar ships and don't push too far into them. To compensate for this change, some shorter radar durations are being increased, and ranges are also being standardized. Russian cruisers will increase to 12 kilometers range, American heavy cruisers will increase to 10 kilometers including Alaska but excluding Indianapolis, with light cruisers staying the same as they are now. British cruisers Edinburgh, Neptune and Minotaur will increase to 10 kilometres, and Russian battleships will be introduced with 15-kilometre radars. There will also finally be separate detection symbols for hydro and radar. What? Oh yes, there'll be 15-kilometre radars on the high-tier Russian battleships, but don't panic. They'll only detect battleships and carriers. I expect the Russian battleships to go into test during 8.0 or 8.1, so I'll do a future Foghorn when more is known about them. Flooding mechanics are changing to be more in line with the way fires work. Ships will be able to have 2 floods running at once, but the durations and the damage will be less than before in total. A new mechanic is being introduced where flooding ships will receive a penalty to their speed, meaning that while the flood does less damage than before, their ability to maneuver and angle is greatly reduced. I wonder if we'll see other similar damage versus performance penalties in the future. The Shard map is going to get an overhaul to make the north and south spawns more balanced in terms of island position, and the map is getting a very symmetrical layout in line with other recent map changes. I'm particularly noting the new channels between the southern and central caps, where before there was a solid wall. Wargaming are having yet another go at cross-server clan battles, probably during the next season, but there aren't any dates just yet. Finally, King of the Sea returns in March with King of the Sea 8, which will follow the same format as previous events, with matches running over 5 weekends, culminating in cross-server finals on the 30th of March, NA versus C and EU versus CIS. The difference this time, though, is that the previous CV-only slot will become a flexible slot, allowing either a carrier or a battleship to allow teams to either use or leave the new format carriers as they see fit. It'll be very interesting to see if and how teams use the new carriers and how it changes the meta. I highly recommend watching the matches, which will be broadcast on Twitch by lots of different streamers. They're usually great fun to watch, and there are usually prizes for guessing the match outcomes. Well, I've been Stats, and that's it from a particularly busy Foghorn. Be sure to subscribe for more updates, and please do join the StatsBloke Discord, link in the description, where you'll find a helpful community of warships enthusiasts. Take care of each other, and I'll speak to you very soon.